A as the opening government. And then we have Sutomo Dua Jovan as the opening oppositions. Next, we have Sutomo Dua Gold Diggers as the closing government. And in closing opposition, we have Albertus Arte et Marte. And the adjudicator will be Bang Fajar Fadli, Marco Pitoyo, and Kak Niva. Any questions, guys, about the draw? All right, I'll count in 3, 2, 1. Back to Bang Fajar.
Yeah, we're going to release the motion in a second. Ntar ya, Wen. Kita tunggu Daniel dulu, dia mau release motion katanya.
Udah.
Okay, Daniel is here.
I'll start the share screen ya, Bang.
Okay.
Yep. Hello, so welcome to the grand final round. Congratulations for all made it this far. In grand final round, we are going to talk about something very interesting. We are going to talk about philosophy. There are tons of context slide. It is a story debate, so you probably need to screenshot it or take picture. Yeah, next slide. Tian. Tian is the son of a retired army deputy commander-in-chief. He's a last-year medical student. He's rich, and he always got spoiled by his parents. Tian found out that he suffered from incurable heart disease. Ever since, he started to drink and got involved in car racing. And as a result, he got weaker. One day, he collapsed and was in need of an immediate heart transplant to survive. Next. Torfan. Torfan is a volunteer teacher in small, rural, isolated, and rebel-invested village in Papandao. She was hit by a car on her way back to the city the night Tian collapsed. She died and her heart was later transplanted to Tian. Later on, Tian found out who the donor was. He searched Torfan up and saw a news report that she died in a car accident the same night when Tian collapsed. That night, Tian was about to car race, but he passed his car to his friend to race on his behalf because he wasn't feeling well. It was his friend and his car that hit Torfan. Tian was surprised. He then went to Torfan's house to find out more information about her. He found her diary, and through that, Tian decided to follow in her footsteps and complete her dream as a volunteer teacher in Papandao village. As a new volunteer teacher, Tian tried to get along with the villagers. However, the villagers were very cold to Tian because they are not used to accept new people in their small village. The villagers loved Torfan so much and they constantly compare her to Tian. However, Tian did not give up. He worked hard, helped villagers with everything that he could, and slowly won their heart. Not to mention, Tian also found Pooh, the chief of Papana village that he deeply loved and cared about. Pooh used to love Torfan, but as time passed, he fell for Tian as he saw so many resemblances between him and Torfan. Next slide. This is the last slide for the context. The closer Tian got with the villagers and the tighter the bond became, the more he got bothered for not telling the villagers the truth that A, Torfan was dead, B, her heart was transplanted into him, and C, he was responsible for passing his car to his friend to race on his behalf that eventually caused Torfan's death. He finally decided to tell the villagers the truth. However, the villagers were extremely disappointed and they requested Tian to go back to the city. Tian also disappointed Pooh, the person he loved the most. The motion for grand final round reads. Next slide. With the benefit of hindsight, this house believes that Tian should not have told the villagers the truth. Yep. Committee, if I may request you to send this PowerPoint to the participants group so they can recheck the context site.
Okay, I will share the PDF to the group participants group. It's okay, William. It's okay, Daniel.
Because the contexts are quite lengthy, so I probably will add 2 minutes for you to read the context. So the case building will be 17 minutes and the debate will start at 11:37. All the best.
Okay, so it's already 37 past 11. Let's start the debate. The case building time is up. Okay, judging with me today are Nifa and also Marco. The committee, can you please share the timer?
Okay, please. A moment.
Okay. Can the committee share screen the timer? Okay. All right, we welcome the Prime Minister.
So, okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, so I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that Tian actually has her right to hide the secret from the villagers because this is actually includes of the idea of the human rights itself, and that's why we believe that we need to propose these motions now. Ladies and gentlemen, our goals in today's debate is very simple, which is we want to prove that past is actually already the past, and we don't need to look back at the past, especially to feel the pain that have come from the past itself, and we need to look forward in the future. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we think that the clarification actually has clear enough from the philosophy. Therefore, I'm going to directly to my argument. So there will be two things I will talk in today's debate. First of all is why is it justifiable, and the second of all is what will happen if Tian didn't tell the villagers about the truth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to my first argument, I will tell you why is it actually justifiable. Now, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we need to understand why Tian actually didn't tell the villagers about the truth about the Thorfinn transplanting her heart to her. Now, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's analyze. It's actually include the nature of human. It is the nature of human. Why is that so? Because we believe that all of us here has been told to forget the past, to not to falling too deep into the past, and we need to look forwards in the future into the past. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually the human rights. It is the human rights to keep it as a secret. Why? Because first of all, Thorfinn is actually in an emergency situation, but which means that she's actually in the conditions when she's fighting between her life and death. Even, ladies and gentlemen, the Thorfinn condition is actually more to the death than the life itself. So, the Thorfinn actually already being helpless. So we believe that it's actually very okay for Thorfinn to donate her organs, and it's very okay for Tian to hide it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to my second point, the idea of the purity itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand why Tian go to the village. Why Tian go to the village and meet the villagers? Now, Tian go to the village, it's because of pure, she wants to reply, paying back to the Torfan kindness. It's not because it's based on her kindness, based on her heart. No one forced her to go to the village to paying back at the Torfan kindness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why Tian want to paying back to the Torfan kindness by herself? Because this is the idea of the nature, the human nature itself. When someone give you something so big, someone save your life, you will have these kinds of feeling where you need to understand that you will feel how you must to pay them back in the future. So this means that Tian's actually already changed. She know her responsibility in paying back. So this is actually the same as the analogy when you accidentally eat someone's food or not, thank you, someone's food or damaging someone's property. Of course, the feeling of the guilty feeling will exist on yourselves, and you will have the initiative to actually paying back the persons itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the second point is the idea of the medical record. We believe that medical record is actually one of personal information that you can share to everyone you want. So we believe it's very okay to tend to keep it as a secret. Like, for example, ladies and gentlemen, your liver actually is from transplantation surgery, right? So you want to hide it from the people, like you don't want people to know it because of certain reasons. And we believe that it's very okay, and these people actually have no rights to know everything in you, even though, moreover, ladies and gentlemen, if they didn't ask you in the very first beginning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to my third point, why the villagers actually accept Tian? Because despite of her fault on the past, even the chef loved her so much. It's because, as I stated, it's because of the purity of the Tian. Tian go to the village by herself as herself, well, not as a Torfan, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, why should Tian told the villager the truth, while it only will give the regret and disappointment to both Tian and the villagers? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that we actually cannot turn back the time. Now, even if the Tian tells the truth to the villagers and the villagers got mad with Tian, now, my question is, will Torfan actually go back alive? Now, this only will give impacts to both Tian and the villager. First, Tian will regret, this feeling of regretness will happen to Tian forever. Now, imagine if Tian living her life full of the regret. In the worst scenario, ladies and gentlemen, she will end up having herself to tell the villagers the truth forever. Now, the impacts to the villagers itself is that imagine if you're being the villager. Now, no matter whether sooner or later you found out that the Tian has killed Torfan, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that it won't change anything. You cannot accept Tian until then, ladies and gentlemen. You only will take risk and make them sadder and regret accepting him, or will you lie, ladies and gentlemen? So we actually prefer lie, because, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand not all lies are having a bad intentions. Now, we need to know that this Tian's intentions is actually good, and that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the existence of white lies is actually happens. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the second point is when the villagers kick out Tian, the impacts. The Tian got the feeling of regretness. She hates herself, and the villagers also will got the impact. Like in the beginning, they have accepted Tian being friendly, and even the chef himself accepting him and love him as he loved the Torfan. It's because of the truth that unnecessary to be told to the villagers. So the villagers itself will lose the both people they love, which are the Torfan and Tian itself, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I have proven to you on today's debate is, first, it's actually okay to tell white lies as long as you have a good intentions in to do so. And the second of all is, it's actually Tian's right to hide her medical record, because we believe that medical record is very personal to a person that everyone don't need to know it, especially when they don't ask you in the very first beginning. Therefore, until the end of today's debate, I'm more than proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To respond the case, I would like to welcome the leader of the opposition. You're here.
Am I audible?
Yes, clear.
Let me set up my timer. So my preferred gender pronouns he or her, and I'll just take POI from the chat. Thank you. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Several clarification in this debate. Side opposing government keep on telling you how Tian have the moral guilt and whatsoever, and they say how Tian need to pay back for those kind of people or those villagers. Panels, this is problematic by 2 reasons. Firstly, moral guilt exists even worse under their subtitles, because the moment when you go there, you're constantly having to see those villagers keep on comparing the new volunteer teacher with Thorfinn, and it is going to be harmful because you're going to keep having those kind of guilt because you keep on hiding the truth that you are the one who take those heart from Thorfinn, and you are the one who who limit them to meet with Thorfinn. Therefore, we say the moral guilt will exist even worse under their subtitles. And secondly, we don't think Tian is the one should pay back in this debate, because no, he's not the one who killed Thorfinn, and the fact that Thorfinn was voluntarily give her heart to Tian, which we say at the very beginning, there are no payback, that Tian have no kind of payback that need to be paid for the villagers or for Thorfinn. Therefore, we say it is in on itself have been so problematic in the very first place. Now also, they bring in the case how the villagers have no rights to know about this kind of thing or to know about Thorfinn. We say no, because the fact that those villagers have made Thorfinn as their family, how they constantly make Thorfinn as the people who they really love, which we say the moment when this kind of bond has been created between the villagers and Thorfinn, we say they should have the right to know about the truth, to know about that Thorfinn is actually died and the heart is actually given to Tian. Therefore, we say their whole case is just being so problematic. Now, going on to my argument, I'm going to talk about first what happened the moment when Tian tell the villagers, and secondly, we are going to engage to the worst case scenario. First argument, what happened the moment when Tian tell the villagers the truth? Let's engage to our worst case scenario. If Tian are being kicked out of the village, as we all know, side proposition might bring those cases. Why then it is better for the life of Tian? Firstly, we say this whole time Tian has lived with the moral burden. It looks like how he has been constantly haunted by the matrix, that this is not his life. It looks like how people in that village like him, not because he is him, but because he tried to be Thorfinn in the village. Even the moment when the villagers constantly compare him with Thorfinn, he can only shut his mouth and be in silence. So it is the moral burden that Tian has suffered this whole time, because with that, he's going to live his life by being other people, and people appreciate him not because he's being him, but because he tried to be Thorfinn, which we say it is in and on itself is really unjustifiable for Tian in the very first place. Now, secondly, even if the moment when he's being kicked out, we say under of the house, the alternative is better, because how Tian is going to go back to city. Because we say it is going to be better by 3 reasons, which is first, Tian has gone through a heart transplant recently, which means Tian needs to have a better resources to take care of his health better. Like this looks like how he need a clean water, he need a fresh environment, and also clean food. As we all know, the life of a village is not sanitized. Like we can see how they can barely provide you clean water, or how there are no kind of electricity that might be really useful for the health and for the environment. Therefore we say it is going to be really harmful for Tian itself. Now, secondly, that village is also a rebel invested area, which we say it is going to be those kind of village is going to be constantly threatened by the people who are unknown whatsoever, which we say it is going to be really harmful, because the moment when Tian stay here, he has been in a weak condition, which then it is going to be really harmful. Now, thirdly, he will not have any future by just staying at that village, because at best in that village he's only going to be a volunteer teacher. But the comparative on the other side of the house, the moment when he go back to his city, he can at least be a doctor, because last year he's a medical student. With then it is going to be better because he can at least continue his studying and become and have a better job and have a better stable job, like becoming a doctor that is more stable. Now, therefore, panels note the comparative is better on the other side of the house, because the moment when he can be a doctor, he can compensate by helping more victims of heart diseases. Because how with then he can move on better, because he will not only hold any burden anymore the moment when he go to the city, because how can constantly compensate by becoming a doctor and help more people, like how Thorfunds want in the very first place. But also secondly, by moving out from that village, he's also going to move on better, because he is not going to be constantly reminded by the life of Thorfunds, and we can see how he's also constantly being compared, which we say that guilt is going to be solved under sort of better, because at least he's not going to be constantly reminded by what Thorfund has done this whole time. But also, why then it is going to be better under sort of to sacrifice the love to Pooh, because the fact that in a context, like it mentioned Pooh, like we are going to identify to several reasons here. We say Pooh likes Tian because he only resembles Thorfinn, which then it is a toxic relationship, because Tian is not going to because Tian is not going to have what he inherently wants, because he is living Thorfinn life, volunteering as a teacher and living his city lifestyle, etc. This is harmful because Pooh doesn't love him because of him, but because he acts like Thorfinn. So Tian will be forced to comply to what Thorfinn always do, with always being the volunteer teacher, forced to stay in that village forever, living his city life with his parent and etc. We don't want that toxic relationship that Pooh gives to Tian, because of the fact that Pooh love him, not because he's being Tian, but because how it resemble Thorfinn in the very first place. Therefore, we say it is going to be better for us to sacrifice this kind of love that's coming from Pooh, because it is in on itself a toxic relationship that we all should have avoided. Therefore, at best, the moment when Tian is not being kicked out of the village, at least he can provide, he can do as what Thorfinn wants, which is going to be better, because how he is not going to be constantly having that moral guilt, because he has to keep on hiding those feelings of how he has hide the truth from the villagers that really loves Thorfinn, or from Pooh, the one who really loves Thorfinn in the very first place. Therefore, at the end of the day, the premise of this argument is simple. We told you on how it is going to be better, even if in a worst case scenario that Tian has to be kicked out of the village, at least he's going to have a better future, have a better life at the end of the day. Therefore, at best, we are not going to have that moral burden that has been going on through our life to Tian's life in his whole life. Therefore, it is going to be really beneficial under ourselves. So we are so proud to post. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For the leader of the opposition to respond to the case, I would like to welcome the Deputy Prime Minister here.
Please give me a second.
I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, notice on how Thorfinn is actually a good volunteer, meaning that actually moment you are not expecting her decision to give her liver, you make people to get more suffer at the end of the day. This is why we still have to actually propose this motion. But before moving on to my point of arguments, there are several points of rebuttals towards the opposition side of the house. First of all, they are actually saying to you that actually villagers have made Thorfinn as a family and they should have the right to actually know about this. We say, understand the idea of Thorfinn's secret medical report. Why Thorfinn want to actually give the liver is because we can see when Thorfinn is actually live, she want to actually give her liver to other. This is why she has actually made the agreement. This agreement to actually to the hospital itself. Like if if I was die, you can actually give my organ to someone that needed this. Meaning that actually Thorfinn accept this kind of giving liver to Tien. We don't think that Tien should be responsible at the end of the day. Even if I'm going to be more charitable, that I will engage with their cases on how Tien should be responsible. I think he has been responsible, and I will talk about this in my point of arguments. Moreover, Thorfinn is so close with villagers. We don't think that Thorfinn want their villagers to know and said about this kind of truth. Second point of arguments, second point of rebuttals on how they're actually saying this is actually a toxic relationship. We said this is totally not a toxic relationship because we need to actually understand at the moment Tien come to those village, Tien come as himself for this entity. Tien can actually make this kind of bonding with the villagers. No, thank you, because of his own character, because of his own capability to actually make those villagers to actually having this kind of bonding with Tien every day. And we say actually this is not a relationship because Tien bonding with her own self, with his own character. Last point of rebuttals on how they're actually stating to you that this is going to give this kind of moral of burden because Tien going to try to be perfect for the villagers because he wants to actually replace the Thorfinn's role at the end of the day. We said this is actually not true because we believe that actually the idea of moral burden will more likely to happen under the side of the house. Why is this true? Because we can see at the moment you are not telling them the truth, meaning that you can still fulfill the villagers' laws of Thorfinn, for example, and you will feel like, okay, I have been responsible. I have replaced the Tien's role for the villagers itself, and Tien will never have this kind of moral burden under our side of the house, and this is why we believe that we have to actually win today's debate. Moving on to my point of arguments, there are 2 points of arguments under today's debate. First, the idea of Tien, and second, the idea of villagers. First, the idea of Tien. Understand that actually Tien also already being so responsible. Moment he being responsible, it is justifiable for him to actually keep this as a secret. Why is this true? A, the idea of feeling guilty. The proof is actually Tien opened the Thorfinn's diary, and at the moment he know that actually Thorfinn want to be a volunteer, and he continue the Thorfinn's job, for example, meaning that actually he felt guilty. He felt that he has to actually being responsible. Point B, volunteer job is not that easy. That we need to actually understand. Tien is actually very rich at the past. He used to be spoiled by his parents. Moment he can live or able to actually moment he can live or able to do adaptation with villagers, with poor villagers that is contrasting with him in the past. He also sacrifices something, and we consider this as a responsibility. Point C, he replaced Thorfinn's role in that village. He replaced Thorfinn's, right? We know people miss Thorfinn. He replaced teacher's role also. He replaced the lover for Fu also. And we said this is already a responsibility that Tien has already do. Last point, moment he exists and pay back for Thorfinn, he's not holding more burden. It is his right to keep it as a secret. This later will relate it for the hindsight and also the Tien itself. Let's just say Tien now have the heart he is using. Let's just say Tien now the heart he's using is Thorfinn's heart. Later on when he's already being accepted by his villager, the thing is this is going to be a Pandora box for both Tien and villagers. Why is this true? Because they will make it more problematic at the end of the day. How is it going to be problematic? Point A, this is the only chance you can pay back and truly accepting yourself as a Tien and make yourself to not regret this kind of thing. Like when you are actually something is already happened and you cannot turn back and understand how regret will actually always happen in the whole life of Tien. Like imagine that if you're actually Tien, you always live in the regression of all of his life, and in the worst scenario, he can end up hating himself for telling the truth. And point B, later the worst scenario, he will regret for being responsible and hate Thorfinn more, and this is very bad for Thorfinn at the end of the day. And point C, Tien will getting depressed and even do this kind of self-harming, and we don't think that actually the idea of good future for the Tien itself that they kept champion under the rest of the house will happen under your side of the house. And why this is bad? Because white lies exist. It is okay because since Tien have good intention, Tien doesn't deserve this. Also, also look at the idea of medical record. Understand that medical record is actually a secret personal information and very secret. Meaning people has the right to keep it disclosed. Meaning we think Tian don't have the moral obligation to actually disclose this, and we don't need to tell the truth to villagers. Even if the personal feeling there, we should respect Trufan and keep it as a secret. Moving on to my second point of effects, the idea of villagers. Understand that villagers are very cold with Tian, and it's hard for Tian to actually do this kind of bonding. Moment Tian are able to make this kind of bonding, to make this kind of close, villagers are happy with Tian, meaning that villagers will also suffer at this point. How is it going to affect the villagers? Imagine yourself as a villager. You find out that actually whether sooner or later the truth won't change anything, right? You won't be able to accept Tian until the end of the day. Villagers will become sad and regret accepting him, and this is not good. We question as a Tian, would you take the risk and make them become sad or regret at the end of the day? Point B, compare the well-being of both villager and Tian. This point, if they tell the truth, they lose Tian, they lose people that being teacher, they lose the people that become the replacement of Trufan. They said because Trufan gone, they also said they also getting more suffer because they lose Tian, right? We question to you how they will create villagers to feel okay if they lose both of people, right? Compare if you are only lose Trufan, Tian exists to bright your village at the end of the day. Point C, in the end of the day, they will not be okay because what's be gone by be gone. You cannot force the idea of destiny, right? At the end of the day, let's just imagine Trufan now this will happen. Of course, she will be okay to actually give this kind of liver to Tian, right? Because she's actually a volunteer. He has a good heart, right? At the end of the day, she also know that Tian will actually replace her role as a teacher because we know Tian is actually from the city and he will have more education. And we think at the moment Trufan must have wished the best for Tian that he can continue her legacy. Tian is not wrong here, but if the villagers will disappointed and kick out Tian, it means opposition hinder the well act of both Trufan and Tian and make every stakeholder suffer. At the end of the day, we are more than proud to actually propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To respond to the case, I would like to welcome the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Am I audible?
Yes.
My preferred pronoun gender is she or him, and I prefer my POS in the chat. Please do not disturb my speech. Let me start my ritual. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. When someone gives me a kidney or a heart, I don't want to be obliged to live a second life, to forget about my childhood, to go to a village where everyone will hate me. We believe that under our side, when Tian has already done so much for the village, but they still choose to hate him, we believe that that is not a good community for Tian to live in. And we believe that it's better for Tian to actually live his own life because we believe that he already done enough and has already made additional benefit and additional impact towards the village itself. Proud to oppose. But before jumping to my extension on why it's very toxic community for Tian and why it's better for Tian to actually live, I have a couple of rebuttals towards the proposition team. Firstly, they talked to you about the whole case about how they must pay them back. 3 reasons why this is not true. Because firstly, Tian has no obligation to do that kind of things. Because he didn't literally kill Thorfinn. Because we believe that under our side, like what the context has said, like it's not the action of what he actually done, but it's his friend. We believe that it's not like he steals her heart or he steals her liver, right? We believe that if he also has already, for example, have to gain the donor and already paid for the liver, for example, to go to the hospital. But secondly, even if that's true, we believe that under our side, Tian has already helped enough. He has already made additional obligation to actually going to the village itself, to actually have a lot of, for example, changing his lifestyle from a city life where you can get up to the 13th floor in an apartment in comparison to a village life where there's no electricity or there's no internet for him to live. This is the kind of additional obligation that Tian has already done. And we believe that paying back has already been happening under status quo, where Tian has already become a volunteer as a teacher, was already trying to connect and be accepted by the villager itself. And thirdly, exactly, if they want to talk about paying back by telling them about the information that Thorfinn has died, there is enough paying back that they should be received, because at least they can gain that information and they can understand that Thorfinn is no longer here, that they can actually gain closer from knowing what happened to Thorfinn at the end of the day, right? That is why talking about paying back, we believe that under their side, it is not a right. But secondly, if they want to talk about how if they want to talk about how they don't need to know because they didn't ask, that there's a medical record, but like this is very illogical, because firstly, it's their village, it's their friends, their family, their best friends. We believe that these kinds of things deserve to know about their own daughter's death, for example. But secondly, we believe that Tian is the one who received the heart itself. We believe that he deserves every single right to say who he got that donor from. We do not understand why they keep talking about medical record, this technical argument that they're trying to bring does not stand in this debate at all. But thirdly, they want to talk about how he came as himself and his personality is as himself. This is very, very wrong, because he needs to change and act like Thorfinn itself. One, he changed his lifestyle, he changed his personality and attitude to be accepted by the villagers, because the firstly, villagers doesn't like this outside people, right? That is why we believe that because that's why Tian needs to change himself, which is why, because he needs to change his personality, and because he needs to act like he's Thorfinn, this is not a good community for him, because it's the villagers keep expecting him to do something that Thorfinn will, which is not beneficial for Tian at the end of the day. Jumping to my extension, since the village already received the information that about Thorfinn, this debate should not talk about Tian's. This debate should talk about Tian's well-being if he continues to stay in that village. We do not want that, because we believe that that is a very toxic community. But we believe that the fact that Tian has already tried so hard to be accepted, where he tried to live his city lifestyle, where he tried to live in the village with no internet, with no, for example, like bedroom, for example, and he needs to teach little children where he has no experience with being a volunteer teacher at all, where he needs to adapt towards this village lifestyle and this village community who has a lot of rebels who is not safe for himself at all. Which is why I believe that the fact that he is trying so hard to be accepted, and even if he did get accepted, we believe that it's not a good acceptance, because everyone expects Tian to be like Thorfinn forever, even if he met someone like Ko, for example. We believe that is kind of relationship is very toxic, because there is not love, because Ko keeps expecting Tian to be like Thorfinn, because everyone keeps comparing Tian like Thorfinn. So at the end of the day, Ko can actually force Tian to actually do something that he's not. This is what we call the term as grooming, or as manipulating and gaslighting Tian at the end of the day, which is what toxic relationship comes from at the end of the day. Which is why this is not the kind of community and love that Tian deserves after actually living his life and living a second life at the end of the day. But secondly, talking about toxic community, we believe that Tian have worked so hard to be accepted at the end of the day, but still, they already still resent him. And when he speaks out, the fact that if he speaks out about all of this and they still hate him, he should leave. And it's better and it's still okay because of three reasons. Firstly, we believe that he has done everything that he could to actually be accepted. Secondly, we feel like he still has his own life. Instead of living Thorfinn's life, he still has his own city life with his own parents, with his own lifestyle, with his own friends, for example. We believe that he has already paid for his donor, for example, which is why he already have and actually pay back enough towards the village. And that is why that is why he deserves to have his own life back. Thirdly, we believe that the village, if he doesn't actually return back to his life, the village will always expect something about him. The village always expect him to do good. The village always expect him to actually be the best volunteer teacher, for example, and like what Ko expect Ko, for example. Which is why we believe that is not a good community for him. And under their side, they want Tian to always be someone that he is not. They want Tian to always be someone that is not always his lifestyle at the end of the day, because know that this is a very different lifestyle from a city and a village, like what I've told you before, where he needs to actually conform himself every single day towards being someone that he's not. It's already been 6 minutes. There's no QIs. Thank you very much. That's why I believe that under this framing, that the fact that his well-being in this village is not good, and how this toxic community will still continue to actually groom him to being someone that he's not. We believe that Tian should leave this toxic community for himself and actually be a better person. For example, like what my PM has said, like for example, becoming a doctor or becoming a better graduate, for example. Which is why under this under this framing, we believe that it's very important for Tian to actually be who he wanted to be. The fact that he already has his own personality, but he needs to actually shift them because of this community, because he thinks that he actually wanted to to be useful towards this village, because he thinks that he needs to have a retribution. We believe that is not justified, because he keeps thinking that he needs to live Thorfinn's life because he needs to retribute and contribute to the village and he keeps regretting that his friends killed Thorfinn, for example. This kind of regret, this kind of moral guilt will always stay with Tian if he continues to live Thorfinn's life. We do not want Tian to live this sufferable life. We do not want people to think that they are obliged to actually live a second childhood and live a second life because they have gotten a donor. And we do not want someone to be groomed and to be manipulated to someone they are not. Very proud to oppose.
Thank you so much. To respond the case, I would like to welcome the member for the government.
Hello, am I audible?
It's quite low.
Okay, wait for a minute. I'm going to set the table first. Is this loud and clear?
Yes, it's better.
Okay, cool. Two things that the opening government talks about. First, as long as there's good intention, that it is okay to not reveal it. And also second, how medical record is the privacy. But they never prove to you why then it will be beneficial for Tian and the villagers at the end of the day. This is a value judgment debate in which world will be better under which side. We will prove to you why then we benefit the villagers and Tian itself at the end of the day by first, how we bring more happiness to Tian, and second, how it will help the villagers more in the future. But before jumping on to my extension, I have several rebuttals towards the opening opposition. Firstly, they talk about how toxic relationship will happen. Firstly, no, because it is naturally Tian itself. It is natural. It is Tian's natural habit that he is like that. That is why it resembles Thorfinn and on Tian itself. That is why the Pooh love Tian. But also, even if it is true that this is because of Thorfinn and etc., but notice how right now boys in the status quo also love girls because they resemble them of their mother, for example, of their sister, for example. That is why then it is not exclusive under yours of the house for saying that this is a toxic relationship, because if that is the case, then all relationship right now is toxic, and that is the world that you are trying to play in. And also jumping on towards the second thing that I wanted to say under opposition side of the house, they told you about how they glorify that they want Tian to be who he wanted to be. Excuse me? It is clear in the context like that Tian had already given up his own life. He started to drink. He started to gamble every single day. So why then Tian wanted to be himself when he has the chance to be a better person, to be a volunteer teacher at the end of the day? And also this directly clashes towards the extension that I will bring about how it will bring happiness towards Tian at the end of the day. And so going on to the third thing I want to talk about, that they told you how when people hate you, it is not a good environment. Exactly. That happened under your side of the house, under our side of the house, because this is a rural society where there's no news that can cater towards the village, for example. Then people will not know that Thorfinn had already died. That is why then under our side of the house, that kind of thing will not happen. People don't know. People don't hate him. It is worse under your side of the house when people have already known, when you tell the villagers that you have killed Thorfinn, for example, or you have get her heart, for example. That is why then under your side of the house is worse, and we told you that under our side of the house, villagers will still don't know, and the news will not just be suddenly appear in the village at the end of the day, because it is a rural society. Now going on to my extension, firstly about how we will bring happiness towards Tian at the end of the day. Life is more meaningful in the village for Tian. in the city, you are constantly drinking and into car racing. You don't even get happiness anyway. Your parents are busy every single day. They don't care about you. In comparison to in the village, you can find happiness from achieving simple things every single day. Because under their side, he had lost his life, his will to live. And when he got the second chance to still live, he reborn and find a new purpose in life, to find happiness in simple things. Happiness by simplicity is more meaningful and sustainable under outside the house, and it is constant happiness where every single day you teach the kids, you saw the person you love. And since it is a small village, then the bonding with every community is tighter and easier. In comparison to under their side of the house, they live in a city with his family that is rich, but he is alone. He is lonely in his big house. Nobody is there for him at the end of the day. That is why then, and also the fact that he had already found someone in the village that he really loves, then regardless of whether this kind of place will be uncomfortable or not, he is already happy. He is with someone that he loves. He is willing to trade off the life that he had in the past with someone that he loved in the village. He is willing to be in an uncomfortable place. And also the fact that he had already been there, and and most likely he had already accustomed towards the circumstances in that kind of village. That is why then, even if it is uncomfortable from the very beginning, but it will soon be better when he had already accustomed towards the circumstances in the village at the end of the day. And also going on to the second thing that I want to talk about how it will help the villagers more in the future. Remember how then Papundao is a rebel inflicted village. That is why then, because his father is an army deputy commander-in-chief, it is in the interest of the villagers that it will be better for Tian to stay, because Tian is spoiled by his parents, and his parents have power and connection. So because Tian wanted to stay there, the only way for his parents to protect Tian is by advancing the policy system in that kind of village. And that will eventually cater to all the villagers as well at the end of the day, because it will heighten the security inside the village itself at the end of the day as well, because it will also tighten the policy towards all of the village, because Tian is right there. Their precious little child is right there. That is why then, if the parents cannot just pull Tian outside of the village, then the parents will cater towards the village. The parents will fix the village. The parents will improve the village. That is why at the end of the day, under our side of the house, we can also accomplish what the Turfan wanted from the very beginning, which is to help the villagers more, which is what the Turfan's goal from the very beginning, to help accomplish to help the villagers, to improve the villagers' life. That is why, because we have proven to you on why under our side of the house, Tian will still get his happiness, and also secondly, how it will also cater towards what Turfans want, which is to help the villagers. This is the reason why we have already championed this debate. And also most important thing to note is that why it should be Tian who have to improve the village is because he is the culprit of why Turfan that as well from the very beginning. Because notice how even if this is the car that is drove by his friend, for example, but it is still he is the one who take responsible, because he is the one who told his friend to race it for him. He is the one who told his friend to actually win from the opponent, for example. That is why then, even if you wanted to say that if Tian is the one who drove the car, then the accident will not happen. No, because firstly, it is a race where the route had already been stated, which kind of street that you wanted to go, what time that you will start the race. That is why then, even if Tian is the one who is behind the wheel, then Tian will also eventually crash towards Turfan at the end of the day. That is why then we told you that this is the moral obligation for Tian to actually cater towards the villager, which is what Turfans want. And also secondly, because we champion the happiness for Tian at the end of the day, we champion this debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the speech. To respond to the case, I would like to welcome a member of the opposition. You're here.
Hello, am I audible?
Can you try again?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, much better.
Okay. We'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, if you keep on lying, you will lose your identity because you are portraying yourself as someone else and you're trying to fulfill that criteria. We think that it is so bad under two metrics. First of all, for your self-development as Tian, and secondly, for other people and for the villagers, the moment that you have been lied for the rest of your life, I think that it is going to be really bad, right? Now, I'm going to be giving you some reasons why government bans shouldn't be apprehended under this debate, right? Firstly, under the opening government, they mentioned about nature of human in which they need to forget the past, they need to move on, and how they also need to pursue about the Tian safetyness at the very first place. Now, firstly, the nature of human is forgetting the past. They need to move on. We think that it is not exclusive, right? Because what going to happen under the Sarahas is only they are going to be denying the fact that they are that they're actually hurting someone, for example. We think that it is something that is really bad, right? Under our Sarahas, the moment that you are already telling the truth, you are accepting yourself. Other people are at least knowing what is the truth. We think that it is going to be the moment which you can actually move on faster. This is actually the real meaning of movement at the move on at the very first place itself, right? Secondly, they also mentioned about Tian safetyness, in which Tian will actually feel a lot of regret under our side of the house because they regret doing the responsibility to the villagers and things like that. We think that as Tian, we think that it is not going to be that bad, right? Because we think that Tian is not depending their whole life to the villagers. They're actually having a really important and also a really nice life in the city, for example. So we think that it is not going to be that bad at the very first beginning. They also mentioned about how not all lies has a bad impact, but at the very first beginning, we think that lie itself is already a bad thing, right? We think that one single lie you did would actually invite the other lies that you do to obscure the lie you create at the very first beginning. And that is why we think that lie at the very first beginning is really bad. And the moment that you keep on doing this kind of thing, we think that there's a lot of things that is going to happen to you, hamper your self-development. That is exactly going to be my extension, right? Now, when we are seeing to the closing government bench, first they mentioned about toxic relationship, right? We think that panels, this is a different case, right? The moment that they mentioned, oh, it's okay for you to love someone that resembles your mother. It is okay if it is a fact, right? But now when we are seeing to this Tian's case, Tian itself is actually not resembling the. They're actually acting to look like Thorfinn. We think that this is something that is really bad. It will actually invite the feeling of guiltiness, and that is why we think that this toxic relationship will actually exist, right? But secondly, they also mentioned about happiness to Tian, right? How Tian would actually find a lot of happiness in the village, but we're questioning how Tian could actually be happy with a lot of expectations coming from the people in the village. How they are going to be so how he is going to be so pressured to look alike like Thorfinn. We think that all of the happiness means nothing. It is not a simple thing at the very first beginning, right? But when Tian is living in the city, like what opening opposition has already mentioned to you, Tian will actually have a brighter future, how they're already going to be sustained at the very first beginning. We think that it's already clear, right? And then also mention about how parents can actually help to contribute to the village and things like that. We think that is not likely at all because firstly, because this certain things is under the government's job, under the government's agenda. It's hard for you to try to manipulate the certain things as a parent, even though you're so rich, right? But secondly, we think that the moment that Tian is not being himself, the moment that Tian is actually pressured, the parents is not going to risk the certain things and making Tian to actually live there for a long time, right? But now let's see why opening opposition shouldn't also be apprehended under this debate, right? Because their case is not complete yet. Firstly, they boldly mentioned about how Tian has no payback to Thorfinn because Tian is not like killing Thorfinn at the very first beginning. We think that it is so inhuman at the very first beginning, right? We think that payback will still exist under our side of the house. I'm going to be talking about how we can actually credit Thorfinn the moment that we are telling the villagers the truth at the very first beginning. But secondly, they also mentioned about the toxic relationship. They're talking about how it was going to be detrimental for Tian and things like that. I'm going to be expanding to you why it's also going to be in a bigger scope, why it's also going to be detrimental not only to Tian but also to the villagers at the very first beginning. But now continuing my extension, first I'm going to be talking about how honesty is actually the policy and true acceptance is something that is really important. We think that honesty and this kind of acceptance is important. We think that it is important for Tian to actually be more transparent and also to be honest, because we think that all of the efforts Tian did will actually be meaningless if the moment that society is accepting them. But as Thorfinn, the moment that society never know what is actually Tian is. what kind of person Tian is actually is, right? Because how long you are going to lie as a person if you are actually a Tian, right? We think that will only create a lot of things. Firstly, it will actually make Tian have self-doubt of themselves, right? How it would actually haunt and actually shadow Tian, because it is something that is really bad, right? Because they always think about how they need to obscure the lie, how he need to obscure the lie they already create at the very first beginning. They're not, he is also at the very first place not going to be concentrating in your surface, because they're always been haunted by this kind of fact that he tried to obscure from the villages at the first beginning. They're always he is also going to have this kind of suspicious feeling in which they're always afraid how people will actually knowing the truth or not, and things like that. Within that, it is going to be bad, and it's going to hamper the growth of Tian at the very first beginning. But moreover, within that, it is likely for Tian, the moment that under the sort of house, the moment that Tian is always like avoid on telling the truth, we think that it would actually make Tian to actually lie to himself and losing his identity, right? The moment that Tian is not true to himself, we think that it would actually he would actually start questioning things that is actually happening in their life, he's going to question his surface, why he's actually do this, why he's actually lying to himself only for the sake of fun. We think that it is something that is really bad. It will actually create the feeling of guiltiness. And we think that this is something that is really bad, right? But now I'm going to be proving to you how it is something that is possible for this village to actually be progressive and accept Tian back. It is actually under the best case scenario, but I'm going to be explaining you how organic change will actually exist, right? The moment that first, we need to notice that firstly, Tian is actually denied, right? But the fact that Tian keeps on building the bonding, then the villagers over there are starting to accept Tian. So we think that it is possible for Tian to be accepted back the moment that Tian is actually telling the truth, right? But secondly, we think that the villagers are also needing Tian because Tian is actually having so much capability, and that is why it is likely. But if it is actually likely, and what's going to be the output is how they can actually neutralize the toxic community whenever people is already knowing what is the intention of Tian being there, right? But even if it is not within that, is okay. It's already clear told by the opening opposition mentioning about how Tian will actually feel satisfied of telling the truth, and how living in city is actually something that is totally okay itself, right? So what's going to be output in our outside house? We think that it would actually help Tian to accept their own flaws, to love himself, and to move on. Under their side house, we think that Tian will only be shadowed by their past, even if he did a lot of good things to the villagers at the very beginning. But now let's try to talk about how we can actually protect a lot of vulnerable stakeholders. Firstly is Tian, and secondly is the villagers. Within that, for the Tian, within that Tian is already working so hard and try to build his bond, his bond with the villagers. Within that, the true bond or the true love would actually exist when you're actually telling the truth itself, right? We think that acceptance or not is following later on, but at least you are already be true to yourself and to the people at the very first meeting. Within it is the very first place. But how we can also respect Thorfinn, right? Within our side house, the moment that Tian is actually taking Thorfinn place, person that she loved without any credit, it is going to be something that is really bad. Within the Andal side house, we can actually give credit to Thorfinn, that Thorfinn is someone that is making us change. This is why we are proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. To respond the case and close the debate from the government bench, I would like to welcome the government whip.
Right, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. I will start my speech. I'll start my speech at 3, 2, 1. I think we all agree that closing opposition should go forth in this debate, judges. Because firstly, the whole cases is really repetitive from the opening oppositions. But secondly, even there, what things that laugh in the closing oppositions? Firstly, they told that the government is having the responsibility to develop the this village at the other day. I think the father of the Tian Islam also part of the government, right? He has the power in the government part. For example, he be in the like commander and the factor in the government. I think he has he has the power actually to tell the government directly to incentivize the government to care about this village at the very first place. So they're just assertive, no process that they told you why the government have the responsibility. I think the father of the Tian itself is also part of the government in this debate. But secondly, the cases that talk about Tian Vert that this will be caught at the end of the day. I think this is not only this is already false in the context where in the context study stuff it already stated clearly that the fact that Tian have to out from this village, so they just need to engage to this kind of thing, and they never engage to that kind of thing in their extensions. But secondly, if the case is like that, I think it's not going to happen because this is an isolated area. The fact that it's already in the context slide, no televisions, no electricity. Why the hell people will read news in the televisions? There is no news report that come to this isolated area. So the Tian itself, if the Tian is not telling by himself, so there is no people that are actually will know about the Tian have the heart from the Torfan at the end of the day, and that's kind of more beneficial on the of those. But second of all, I'm going to give the second to the opening up issues. Let's engage to their whole cases. Firstly, they told you about the moral burden. I think that moral burden is not the urgency in this debate, judges. Even if you're getting the comparisons like you are getting compared with the Torfan, it's okay because you're the medical student and not the teacher and not the volunteer teacher. So at the very first place, you take it as feedback how to be better in the village itself. Like, I mean, the Torfan is the being loved by the village so much because he's a good volunteer teacher, and I think it's better to the development of the Torfan itself, of the Tian itself, because he is getting the feedback from the villagers itself, right? But secondly, I think compare things is symmetric under both sides. In life, even in the city, Tian live in the city to become a doctor, you get compared by being a doctor. So the argument cannot run in this debate because in the reality itself, reality speaking, you getting compared even you live in the city and become a doctor and or even like medical student, and I don't think their argument can be credited in this debate. I think like he has the moral burden. They stated to you he's not killed the Torfan at the end of the day. But judges, this also assumptive that Tian have no moral guilty. I think Tian have moral guilty, but because technically he's killed the Torfan at the end of the day because the fact that his car is crashed the Torfan at the very first place because he won the racing car at the end of the day at the very first place. So I think the Tian have the moral good at the end of the day, and they need to engage why this kind of thing is more harmful rather than under our subjects. But second of all, they told you about the heart transplant, then the Tian is won the clean and food and etc. This is so assertive, judges, knowing he is a last medical student, ladies and gentlemen. I think he also considered he got some medicine from the city at the very first place. So I don't think he's so the opening up is so assertive that Tian will be died at the village itself. But secondly, we have established to you that his father have so much power. Therefore, his father can help them to incentivize the health facilities to the villager itself. So at the end of the day, the father have the pressure to protect their children, right? To protect the Tian itself. So they will incentivize the government to have more healthcare in the village itself, and it's more beneficial to the Tian, but also more beneficial to the villagers at the end of the day. But third of all, they told you about no future. This is so something, ladies and gentlemen, because you become a teacher, you become voluntary teachers. It's so ironic that they think this is not a future and this is not a decent job at the end of the day. We have established to you that this is a simple thing that can gain you happiness, judges. For example, you can see how the children smile at the end of the day, how the children become more smart and can escalate their social layer and going to the city and getting job, right? And ladies and gentlemen, you don't need the future again under yourself the house in the terms of financial stability. They told you about the stability under two reasons, because you are already rich, your father already rich, even like in the context like your father is already rich, most likely you got the heritage at the end of the day. But second of all, your father is having power. If you want to go to the city itself, it's your father, it's not necessary because your father also having power. They have money, your parents having money. So that's not, we don't think the financial stability is really important in this debate. The important way in this debate is the urgency in the village itself. They need Tian at the end of the day, and Tian also gain happiness. So it's like symmetric, the benefit that we got from the closing government at the end of the day. The problem is, firstly, most likely if you stay in the city, you keep reminded that your heart is in the Torfan heart is in yourself. But the fact that this is will build the moral guilty, ladies and gentlemen. Second of all, the community. My first speaker have stated you clearly that in the village itself, you get more community that can bonding to you. This is more beneficial because in the city stuff, you maybe have the rich and etc. But the problem, your parents is busy, for example, you're not getting some sense of community, and it's far better on those of the house. And the opening government haven't told you about this before, right? Last thing that I want to say in the opening opportunities why they cannot win upper us, because they really some judges, because under the reason, like they told you about the reasonable things and etc. I think like Pooh itself have their own time, have his own time. The fact that like Turfan is his one time. I think like Tian is Tian and Turfan is Turfan. I think there's something left that Tian Turfan that Pooh love from the Tian itself. But secondly, I think there is something already exists in status quo, like how you love a voice that resemble your father, and that's not exclusive anything, and there's no harm come from the opening opportunities. I think that OG should go third in this debate and it cannot operate from closing government, because they just bring the idea about natural of human and the technical argument about the medical is going to be secret and etc. But no benefit and no process. But rather on those of the house, our contributions is the most contribute in this debate under three reasons. Firstly, we say like this Tian found some sense of community. We say that simple thing can make you happy. Judges, this is the most beneficial because we have proven to you that in the community itself, it getting some sense of the happiness from the simple thing, regardless what is the conditions in the village itself, right? But the problem in the context like stuff in the city, the conditions he getting for example alcoholic, and that kind of thing is more harmful for the Tian. But secondly, we happen to told you that the Tian found his love, like the Pooh itself. I think that under the subject house, the Tian itself will be regret that the Pooh is getting, like for example, far from the Tian itself, and he will lose the creature that he really cared and love about, ladies and gentlemen. But third of all, we have proven to you about the robot infested, where the fact that the villagers can get more advanced policies and technologies under the house, like advanced policies in the security terms, because the fact that the Tian's father is the having power and having the urgency to protect the Tian in the village. Proud to propose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. To close the entire debate, I would like to welcome the opposition whip.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Let's see. Okay, a minute. Okay. So I will be starting in 3, 2, 1. I will start my speech with some rebuttal towards the closing government. First of all, it's about how the closing government said that the OO said that it will become a toxic relationship, and they rebutted with, no, it's Tian's natural habit, and we believe that it is not true, ladies and gentlemen, because what his natural habit is by drinking a lot of things, is by doing some racing and stuff like that. And we believe that by saying that teaching and voluntarily being a teacher is Tian's habit is not something true, because it's already context motion itself. And the next one is about how the closing government said about this father of Tian is having a big power, and it's better for Tian to stay so that it can be catered for the village itself, so that we can use the power of the father itself, yada yada yada. But ladies and gentlemen, notice that it is not likely. Why? Because as an army, ladies and gentlemen, he is a part of the government itself, as my first speaker already said. And moreover, ladies and gentlemen, even if you say that he is having the biggest power, and exactly because he get that much of a power, he has more responsibility, right? He has more responsibility to take care of the country and not just about this rural village, and because only his child is being in that village itself, ladies and gentlemen. So it is not really likely for them to protect this villagers itself. Second of all, is about in the second speaker said that it will give the villagers will give some feedback towards Tian itself. But ladies and gentlemen, we believe that it is not likely, because these villagers are the one in rural area, and he is just a volunteer, and it is not likely for these students in that rural area to understand what to feedback for, right? And second of all, here they also say that compared when you're becoming a doctor, you will always still be compared at the end of the day. But we believe that it is not true, ladies and gentlemen, because when you are entering this doctor field, this medical field, you are not compared, but you are competing against each other. You are competing to get the most achievement, to save most life in your medical field itself, ladies and gentlemen. And second of all, it's about the volunteer itself. They say that by being the volunteer, it will still give in the future, and by seeing the children smile, and even if it is not enough, the father is already rich and you can still get fulfillment from your father. Ladies and gentlemen, notice how idealistic and how pretty that sounds, ladies and gentlemen, because this children's smile is not money and they cannot pay you for that, and you have no future just based on a smile. And even if you say that the father is already rich at the first hand, ladies and gentlemen, notice you're just licking your father's shoes, because it is important to survive by yourself. It is important to have your self-development, which I will tell later on more on my classes and stuff like that. And the third one is about living in city will be bad, ladies and gentlemen, because he will drink again. That is what the other side of the house say. But notice how this kind of drinking manifestations happen. He was drinking because he was sick, and he lost the hope because he already he thought that his sickness is something that is truly incurable. But when he get this second chance, ladies and gentlemen, they already change itself, and he can maximize that kind of change to finally get to be a better person. And we believe that this habituation to drink again won't happen. So going on to my classes. First of all, is about the respect to Thorfinn, ladies and gentlemen. The opening government said that Thorfinn is actually helpless and he is about to be dead. And that is why we have no obligation to say anything about Thorfinn. And they said that it is okay just because we have this medical record that is a part of some privacy. But ladies and gentlemen, this medical record is not something so significant. Imagine hiding your own life, your own true self in a paper, ladies and gentlemen. It is not something that is truly can be justified just because of one medical record itself, ladies and gentlemen. And notice how this respect is truly important, ladies and gentlemen, because Thorfinn is the one who was died. Thorfinn is the one who give her heart to Tian itself at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe that the respect in our side of the house is happening, as my first speaker already said before, by doing all of this payback and by having this kind of treatment to the society of the villagers itself and understanding them. Second of all, is about the payback itself, ladies and gentlemen. The opening government said that it will happen once we stay in the village, because Thorfinn already give something big, and we need to be a volunteer in order to give that payback. And Tian already be responsible by continuing Thorfinn's job. And the CG say that he is the one who passed his car and he has the obligation to pay back itself. But notice how this kind of payback is not enough, ladies and gentlemen. And in our side of the house, we are giving the most payback by being our true self, by being the one who can be trusted at the end of the day. And the OO itself say that they don't want payback because Tian is the one who did not kill Thorfinn, but Tian got Thorfinn's heart, right? So at the end of the day, this payback is truly needed, and that is why this payback is truly important. And the third one is about the vulnerable actor. The opening side of the government house said that this Tian and these villagers will get a lot of regrets, and it is basically their main idea. And because of Tian and the villager already bonded, it will be sad for them to lose Tian, ladies and gentlemen. But we believe that losing Tian is not something that they have to be sad about. Yes, maybe they are sad because they are losing one precious person, but ladies and gentlemen, notice that they are the one who kicked Tian at the first hand, and they are the one who know what is Tian's problem to be kicked. They know the reason, and they know what will happen when Tian is kicked at the end of the day, and it will Yes, maybe Tian will regret it a little, but at the end of the day, Tian will have this kind of self-development. We know that life moves on, the world goes on. You won't move on once you're circling in one matter itself, once you're doing this thing based on everything, because as my first speaker already said, Tian will have a lot of self-doubt. Tian will have a lot of pressure because of this kind of burden, of this moral burden itself, ladies and gentlemen. So this kind of self-development won't be happening in their side of the house. And the OO said that he can move onto the village and have better life and well-being, but in our side of us it will be better because we are catering all of it. We are catering the current situation and we are also catering the future. That is why in our side of us we are more contributive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the debate. The announcement for the grand final run will be done after the break. So you can, I don't know, the committee, you will find the information for committee after the break. And for the committee, can you please make us a breakout room to deliberate?
Okay, thank you, Bang Fajar. But before all, because this is the end of the grand final of debate competition, do you have to say something, Bang, to the participants?
No. Yeah, just that the announcement will be after the break.
I'm sorry, Bang, but the announcement of the official announcement will be on the closing ceremony, Bang, at 4 p.m.
Oh, when will the closing ceremony?
At
Today?
4 p.m., Bang. Yes, today at 4 p.m.
Oh, okay. So today at 4 p.m., not after the break. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Good luck for everyone. We're going to deliberate.
Okay. Okay, Bang. We will open the room. Okay, Bang. And the other adjudicators, the breakout room is open, and you can join the breakout room. And also for all debaters. So, all right, this is the end of the grand final from Debate National English Competition 9.1. First, I want to announce you that we will hold a talk show at 3 p.m. with the speaker Bang Irwan Saputra. He took his mastering program in communication management at George Washington University, and now he is the CEO of One Click Democracy. Later, we will share the Zoom link. Make sure you join the talk show and get the benefit from that. So, jadi teman-teman bisa ikut talk show ya nanti jam 3. And the second one is we will share the speaker tabs and team tabs after this grand final session end. So speaker tabs sama team tabsnya bakalan kami rilis abis ini ya guys. Next, the announcement of the winner and top 10 best speaker will be announced in the closing ceremony. We hope all participants will be join the closing ceremony. Okay guys, before our last speech, first, please turn on your camera so we can take the screenshot for documentations. Bisa di-open dulu kameranya ya semua teman-teman. Okay guys, please open your camera first. Documentations, please. Alright. Bisa dibuka dulu ya kameranya semua teman-teman sekalian. LO juga kalau bisa. Semuanya. Yuk. All participants and committee and also liaisons, please open your camera. Okay. Chatur, are you there? Can you take the screenshot? I will count and you take the screenshot.
Okay, Weni.
Okay, thank you, Chatur. Okay, guys, so I will count in 3, 2, 1. Please make a sign. 3, 2, 1. Take that, Chatur. Okay, guys, thank you so much. So this is the end of our Zoom meeting. We as the committee and liaisons of Debate National English Competition 9.1 would like to say our apologize for these 2 days. We have a lot of technical problems that maybe get also hard for you guys. And we would like to say thank you so much for your participations in these debate competitions. Whatever the result, guys, later all of you, all the winners, and good luck for your schools and life. So I'm Winnie Catherine, signing off, and you may leave the room. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you everyone for the debate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the debate.
Thank you for the debate.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Catur, don't leave the room first.
Pardon?
Jangan di close dulu. Eju masih apa?
Oke,
Eju
oke, aman, aman.
still, oke.